if the target's farther than melee range, it shoots a row of spikes out to that person. So if you're in direct line of the boss and the target, you'll get hit by Impale. You don't want that to happen, so really recommend having DBM voice callouts enabled, and then going into your Blizzard settings and having the speech bubbles for yells and says appear. So that way it gives you a kind of a extra reminder for where the attack's going to go. But for Impale, it's a high damage, physical damage attack. I don't have my notes in front of me, but I want to say hits for around 4k before armor, so probably 3k-ish for clothies and on downwards. It'll launch you up in the air. You'll then take fall damage, so it's really important for people to get targeted. They get bubbled, they get renews, hots, all that kind of stuff. And so ideally, you only want one person getting hit by that. Outside of that, his other fun ability is Locust Swarm. He'll start a big cast on that and stand still. When he's casting Locust Swarm, it's really important for the MT to pick up the boss and drag him around this outside ring here. And so when he does his Locust Swarm, he's going to have a 20-yard AoE on him. You don't want to get hit by the AoE because it silences you. It also puts a stacking dot on you. And it also makes it so you can't use any melee attacks, auto attacks, anything like that at all. So melee don't even get hit by it. But basically the tank's going to kite him around this ring here, all the way to where everyone's standing right now. During this time, a Crypt Guard is going to spawn. OTs are going to pick up the Crypt Guard, and all DPS will focus down the Crypt Guard. It's worth mentioning whenever a Crypt Guard dies, about after 10 seconds when it dies, it explodes into about 10 little scarabs. I think they got like around 2,000 HP. Just AoE them down and get them under control. If a player dies during the fight, they also explode into scarabs, so you don't want that to happen. But basically this fight, just watch out when Locust Swarm's being cast, stay out of the path tank is kiting the boss, and kills Crypt Guards, and don't share Impale, and you win. And so we'll see if we can maybe get the attack to happen here.
Yes, run. It makes the blood pump faster.
You're gonna kill it.
There's some spikes.
Yep. The Impale animation is a little bit different in live versus retail, but you basically get the idea. Fast moving row of spikes that's going to launch you up in the air.
You might want to
there you go.
take our weapons off.
Oops, did I do that?
And we didn't get a Locust Swarm, so no one got to see that. But again, basically, pretend I'm the tank. I'm taking the boss sideways here. Oh no, it's Locust Swarm time. I'm going to hop on this little ledge here, and I'm going to run around the ring here. Oh no, oh Jesus, everyone get out of my way. And then everyone kills the guard. Once the guard's down range, as long as you stay more than 20 yards away, you're okay to DPS the boss. And again, just keep dragging them all the way around until I get back over here, and then we rinse and repeat. And then we head out from here. We're going to kill more spiders because this is a spider wing. We're going to kill lots of spiders. The good news is the ones in classic are not going to have the stupid yank ability. Just stuns, poisons, all that fun stuff. And we head down this nice little pocket here. Kill the little spiders. There's two big padding spiders here that you want to pull separately. And then we chill outside Grand Widow Faerlina's room.
Mean nothing.
When you can, have a hunter pull the little spiders padding around there, AoE them down. And for the trash in here, you definitely want to have all your warriors break out their Earthshakers or Dark Edge Insanities. And basically just run in, pull the trash, face it away from your raid, stun them, nuke them down. They got a fun little ability where they cast a conal AoE Shadow Bolt, and so you just don't want that facing the raid, because if you have a bunch of those guys cast those Shadow Bolts, it's a lot of damage that adds up really fast. But outside of that, just nuke them down, toss grenades, earth shake them, all that good stuff. And then we have the whole room for Grand Widow Faerlina. And so our fight's going to appear exactly like this. We're going to have 4 worshippers, 2 followers, and the boss herself. The main mechanic of this fight is controlling the worshippers. For some raids, you may want to kill the followers first. All they just do is a random charge around, stun people for a couple seconds, but nothing too spooky there. But have an OT just pick those guys up, take them off the side, and if you just want to focus them down, do so. I think they got like around 250,000 HP. For the worshippers themselves, having another OT pick those guys up and hold them on the other side of the room. No DPS whatsoever should be attacking the worshippers at any time. If you're DPS and you attack the worshippers, we should kick you from the raid. For Grand Widow Faerlina, her fun abilities are an AoE Poison Bolt Volley. It's got like a 40-yard range and it hits 10 random people. Hits for about 1,500 on the initial cast, and then it'll start ticking for about 450 every 2 seconds after that. It is dispellable. Outside of that, she also has the AoE Rain of Fire. The Rain of Fire does damage immediately when it hits on you, so definitely want to move away ASAP. Does around 2,000 fire damage a tick, and so it can melt you really fast if you're kind of not paying attention. The big thing for Grand Widow Faerlina is she does a frenzy attack, and so when that happens, she gets big, she gets angry, she does a big yell, and the only way to get rid of it is by mind controlling one of the worshippers with a priest, marching that worship over the boss, and then you'll have a little button on there called Sacrifice. Once Faerlina gets big and red, you mash that button, kills the worshipper, and it dispels the frenzy on the boss for an entire minute. Also stops her AoE Poison Bolt Volley for 60 seconds as well, too. And so the whole gimmick of this fight is killing the boss before you run out of worshippers. If you sacrifice a worshipper before she frenzies, all it does is delay the frenzy by 30 seconds. So not necessarily ideal to do that. Outside of that, that's basically the fight. Any questions?
Nope, just a reminder to not touch any of the bosses until TB says we can.
Yeah, this one we're not really going to be able to watch anything unless we just want to see the Rain of Fire and the Poison Bolt Volley.
We can kill them?
Sure.
You have failed.
And rage here?
Well, that's right. That's another fun thing with the followers. They do an AoE silence. And it takes about a minute for us to get to that first frenzy.
She's beating on this cute little gnome.
Slay them in the master's name.
And there's the frenzy. Like I say, you can't really miss it.
Why is she losing health?
Sometimes when you might have leech gear.
Oh.
The master will avenge me.
Yeah.
It's got 30 gold. Oh.
Then after Grand Widow Faerlina, we just move back the way we came, but this time heading to the left. Usually there's a big giant spider web here that stops you from going this way.
I'm out of range.
And in case you missed it, there's more spiders. Because it's spider web.
Oh, okay. Is this the same route we're gonna take?
Yep, this is the only route you take.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we're going to be one of those super try-hardy guilds that floats through the sewers. At least not for a while. And then coming up here, there's a lovely little meme that we'll be able to re-experience. Normally there's a giant door here that opens when we get close to it, but Blizzard forgot to label it correctly, so it appears as like Mac's doodad door thingy. So enjoy the meme, have some LOLs. And then we just head to the left up the ramp here.
Something special about those shades.
Yep, there'll be little spooky shades that are invisible. You can have warlocks put detect invis on tanks and hunters to be able to pick them up. They're just kind of like the stupid shades and undead strat. They can do an AoE call out to have trash come over and help them, but they're just annoying trash mobs you don't want to have join your fight if you're having trouble on trash. Like that. Yep. And then we have the little web here. You guys are going the wrong way. And then we get to Maexxna, who, you could have guessed it, is a giant spider. Because of the spider wing.
It's the what wing?
The Spider-Man wing.
This doesn't make sense.
Okay, I guess I get the theme.
For Maexxna, fairly simple fight. The biggest thing revolves around monitoring your timers because the fight is entirely timer-based. Her lovely abilities are a AoE web wrap that stuns everyone in the raid for like 6 seconds, if I recall correctly. Again, I don't have my notes in front of me. Basically, you want to hot up your tank, get some shields on them because the tank has to survive for those 6 seconds while everyone's stunned. The only way to get out of the web is by using a Flask of Petrification or Divine Intervention. But just monitor your timers really importantly. She does an AoE, or not AoE, but a conal poison spray in front of her. That should only be hitting the tank because no one else should be in front of her. She'll also put a 30-second debuff on the tank that reduces all healing by 90%. It is dispellable by poison cleansing things, so make sure you get that off the tank right away. Her other fun ability is a cocoon that's going to pick 3 people and launch them against the northeast wall, and they'll be wrapped in little webs, kind of like Vanquist. The cocoons have about 6,000 HP, and so you want to have your hunters break people out of those cocoons as soon as possible. During that time, that's going to spawn like 10 little spider ads. Just group them up, AoE them down. They're not super dangerous, but they attack every 1 second for about 200 damage, so it can cause a lot of pushback on healers, which you don't want to happen. Outside of that, just respect the timers. When she gets below 30% HP, she does an enrage that you can't dispel. And so that's the really important part, is you don't want her to enrage into a web wrap, because your tank will likely die from that much damage. But do the web wrap, push her below 30%, and then just kill her.
I'm webbed.
Break the webs, though.
Ads.
How do you break the web?
And you tap it. And so normally for the boss, you're going to have your raid stand on this cocooning wall over here, since it makes it really easy for people just to turn around, break the web, and get back on the boss. And then generally you're going to have your tank the boss kind of in the middle of the room here, facing away from the raid. The necrotic poison, that's the healing debuff that reduces healing by 90%, yes. Just like Nefarian needs to be dispelled instantaneously. And then congratulations, you beat the spider wing.
You're called the spider wing because of the spiders?
You know, you would think that, but it's not the case. It was actually invented by Frank J. Spider, who actually hated spiders.
Does this tunnel exist in Classic as well? Hey guys.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. When you finish the wing, you get this lovely little eye here that teleports you back to the main room, so you don't have to go all the way backwards. And then after Spider Wing, likely you'll be moving on to the Construct Quarter, also known as the Abomination Wing. The good news is this trash is very faithful to the original Naxx trash. And so your starting group here are these Patchwerk golems. The nice thing is you can drag these boys out in this main area here because they don't leash back. You generally want to assign a tank to each one of them because they do hit hard and they do have a War Stomp ability. And so you want to make sure that healers and ranged DPS aren't getting stunned by those guys, as well as your tanks aren't sharing the stuns and getting beat to death. But you'll just pick them up. You can pop Faps to help out with these guys. They hit fairly hard, so definitely probably just sword and board them for the first couple of weeks. There is a big guy that pats in and out of the room, so just be really careful of him. And then for the next room here, you got these nice little sides of the room that you'll be pulling. The biggest thing is they now gain a Bile Wrencher. So those guys you'll have picked up by a tank, face them away from the raid because they do a big old vomit of poison. And so again, you only want your tank getting hit by that. And so when you pull the left side, all three guys will come to the left side. On the right side, those three guys will come there. And the back, all four will come in the back when you pull them. It's really important to mention that you notice that little pipe above us with the doorway and the green pipe. Grobbulus is one of the bosses coming ahead, and he likes to pat up there. When he does a slime spray ability that's going to cause a big old nuclear slime boy to spawn here. Just make sure if he's up there, you have a tank ready to pick that up so it doesn't go haywire and kill healers. Next room here, you want to have everyone stay away from the entryway of this door, because when you get close, you're going to aggro those little slimes. If you're familiar with the slimes from Maradon, they move really slow, but they have a AoE aura that hits really, really hard. And so melee, don't zug into them because you will die instantaneously, but you want to have all your mages, warlocks, anybody with a ranged AoE like Blizzard, Flame Strike, Rain of Fire, just AoE them down, kite them around. And so you do a pull and just AoE him down. And then we'll move on to the next room. And this is where all those holy waters you should be farming are going to come in super useful. And so we'll come in here, little parkour over the green slime. If you touch the slime, it reduces all your stats by 75%. So people often will have to get topped off after that. But just work on pulling the trash in a very coordinated fashion. These packs up here are the super dangerous packs. And so you want to focus down your living monstrosities first because they drop a little totem, does chain lightning. It gets to be really crazy damage if you're not focusing the totems right away. After that, generally you'll cleave down the surgical assistants because they do a chain mind flay. Kind of think of it like Cthulhu's eye beam. So when people are grouped up, that mind flay goes through a lot of people. And again, that damage can ramp up really fast. And the mad scientists, nothing crazy really happens there. As long as you get the other stuff done, they're pretty much dead by then. But again, totems, monstrosity, assistants, scientists. And then you'll just work your way through the trash in here. Again, they're pretty spooky, so sword and board. Like I say, if you're a really sweaty tank, recommend considering a FAP. Once you get all the trash cleared out, you'll just watch Patchwerk's pat up and down the room here. And so wait for him to come back. Generally, you'll wait till he's kind of right about in this area right here, and then pull him. And so you'll pull him across this little lip here. And so generally you're going to have Patchwerk tanked about right in this area right here. You're going to have all your tanks and OT tanks in front of the boss. You have all the melee DPS behind the boss, kind of at the edge of this green little river here. And then all your healers and casty boys are going to be, say, about 7-10 yards behind the tank group here, all stacked up. And so the goal for melee DPS is you never want to have your HP be above the off tanks and stuff, so you're not taking hateful strikes. So it's easy to back up and move forward just to keep dropping your HP down. Just don't stand it, otherwise, like I say, your stats are reduced by 75%, and you'll probably get a gray parse. Biggest thing for Patchwerk is his Hateful Strike ability. Hits for about 23,000 damage before armor. After armor reductions, you're probably looking at around 8,000. And so it hits the people that are highest on threat table with the most HP, which ideally you want to be your tanks and off tanks especially. It's really important you get them healed up because Hateful Strike comes out every about 1.2 seconds. When the tank is hit by it, they're going to gain a significant amount of threat, so that way your OTs don't have to worry about going too crazy on threat gear. They can go a bit more mitigation and avoidance based. If you dodge or parry or have the Hateful Strike miss you, there's a rumor that he's just going to immediately recast it. That's a lie. So dodging and parrying and missing those attacks are really good. Outside of that, your MT is just going to hold threat on them, keeping the position, and people are going to go balls to the wall. This would be the fight where you just test your DPS and see how well you can do. At 7 minutes, if the boss is not dead, he's got a berserk and wipe the entire raid. And then when the boss hits 5% HP, he does a enrage there. And so for tanks, you really want to pop your cooldowns, like your life-giving gems, your shield walls, things like that, because he's going to start hitting like a dump truck, especially on the Hateful Strikes. But you killed.
Did we just to go back over against the melee walking in and out of the green stuff? How does that work?
Right. So you basically just kind of position yourself right on the edge there. So that way, if your HP is starting to get a little high, you just back up for like 1 nanosecond just to push your HP back down.
If it's touch and go back.
Exactly.
Got it.
This is the Frogger part, right?
Yep, this is the Frogger part. If you touch these green slimes, you're going to die, your raid's going to make fun of you, and yeah.
I always saw people dying to this, and now that I'm looking at it again 15 years later, these things are so slow. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a really, really bad group of people, you can just have a team of warlocks and clickers go ahead and summon the people. But again, if people can't do it, make fun of them.
I think our concern might be Urkalia just because of Australia time stuff.
Yep.
Latency stuff.
Yep, she'll be the special exception. And then some more hardcore parkour with the green slime here. And so this trash here is different. It's just sludge belchers. And so sludge belchers are abomination-looking dudes. Kind of like the guys in Undead Strat. Every now and then they're going to spawn a little green slime. You'll just have your off-tank pick those guys up and just cleave them down. But you'll want to make sure you kill all the trash in this room here. Otherwise, if you don't kill it, trash will come with Grobbulus. So it's important to watch his padding route and make sure you get that group in the back when he's at the top.
On Patchwerk, the hit point is percentage of your total health, right?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
On who it picks to hit, it goes by percentage of max health, right? Not just
no,
straight
it's the
number,
actual amount. Straight
Yeah,
number.
actual amount.
Okay.
And so that's why as melee DPS, you want to try to keep your HP low, so that way you should never be on that table for taking the Hateful Strike. I mean, depending on how good your healers are, if off tanks are getting healed up really fast, then it shouldn't be a problem. For Grobbulus, really simple fight. Basically, you have all your ranged DPS and all your healers stack in the middle here in this big circle. You'll have your MT pick up Grobbulus, drag him along these little grates here, facing away from the raid, and of course, melee DPS behind the boss, killing him. His biggest abilities is a slime spray that happens if whatever the target with highest threat is not in melee range, so you don't want to have ranged DPS pull. Otherwise, it's like 5,000 nature damage and a large AoE cone in front of the boss. Really hurts. Outside of that, he'll do a regular slime spray in front of him. Again, that should be only hitting the tank. Periodically throughout the fight, he's going to drop a little expanding AoE poison cloud at his feet. And so the gimmick of this fight is when that happens, your MT is just going to drag him in a clockwise or counterclockwise fashion around the room, whichever you prefer. So that way he just drags him out. Melee DPS can keep focused on the boss without getting hit by that expanding poison ring. The other fun mechanic of the fight is his mutating injection. Basically, it targets a random person in the raid. They get a 10-second debuff on them. If that debuff hits 0, that person is going to explode for a lot of nature damage, so you don't want that to happen. Generally, when you get the mutating injection, what you're going to do is move to near one of those previous poison rings. Not get in it, but get near it. Call for a cleanse. You'll get cleansed, and you'll take a small amount of nature damage, but when you get cleansed, you're also going to drop a poison ring at your feet. And this is why it's crucial to get the hell out of the raid so you don't drop that poison ring in the middle of the raid and murder everyone.
I remember this now. You like make a line of the rings away from where you're at.
Yep, you just move in a big circle around the room. When he does the slime spray in front of him, for every person that's hit by it, it's going to spawn a Fallout slime. The Fallout slime is a slow-moving slime that has an AoE poison aura. Have your OT pick it up and have your ranged DPS focus it down, and then go back on the boss. Outside of that, just drag him around the circle. Don't be in front. Easy peasy.
Can we kill him?
Well, so many start him prematurely.
Sorry, I didn't. I was RPing.
Long story short, don't stand in poison. Don't stand in front of the boss. Kill slimes. And then, for the love of God, if you have a poison to spell, wait for it to be called out for the spell. Don't just zug and click it instinctively. Yeah, sorry, it is a disease. And then you collect your loots, head up the lovely ramp back here, and then we'll approach one of the hardest bosses in the entire game.
In this thing, your loot is they auto roll, like you just win it automatically, right? That's not why,
Yeah.
like, yeah. I was just like, how am I getting gear? I didn't roll anything.
And so we'll head to the store here, have your entire raid group up right here, get all your buffs on here, and prepare for the hardest boss. This is the slime pipe. And so you'll have your raid move along this pipe here, making sure not to fall off, because if you fall off, you have to go all the way back around the room. People will mock you and laugh at you, and you'll gather outside this green pipe here. Once everyone's all ready, you head in the green pipe, standing on the right-hand side. While you're in this pipe, you're going to take AoE nature damage, or damage over time from nature. Just healers, top people off as we move through here, but we can't really pause. Don't be on the left side, otherwise you notice there's a little hole here, you'll fall. Again, we'll mock you. When you get to the end here, have everyone drop down together, have your NT run in, and you'll begin the Gluth encounter immediately.
Oh, I didn't hit him.
Stop killing things for a moment. It's not letting me res Icky because I'm in combat.
As soon as we drop down, we're in combat.
Yeah.
Ooh,
If you
there's
got-
enrage.
If you got pets, put them on passive and stuff like that, because this is making this really hard. Okay, so
I can't log in, so
you're going to have your MT, drag them down all the way back here. And so you'll want to get them to this back door here. And then once you get in the back door here, just like Anub'Rekhan, you're going to face him sideways. And so his fun abilities are kind of like Vanquist. He does a stacking debuff on the current tank of a 10% healing reduction that can stack up to 10 times. And so depending on your DPS, there could be some tank swapping. He is not tauntable, so you need to have OTs building up threat and be able to do a tank transition through threat eclipsing.
Can he be tranked or no?
Yes, he has to be tranked by hunters, because he frenzies every 10 seconds.
Okay.
During the fight, you'll notice the little zombie chow that are spawning in the back of the room. You're going to have frost mages picking those up, or just really any mage with a frost spell like Cone of Cold, Frost Nova, things like that. You're not going to traditionally tank those guys, like stand still and get them on you. You're just going to run around slow and just keep them under control. They've got a lot of HP that we're not going to be able to kill down during this time. And if they start mailing you, they're going to put a stacking disease on you called Infected Wound. Basically stacks increasing damage taken by 100 per stack. So a couple stacks is not too bad. More than 20 stacks, it's going to hurt. And so you'll have your mages kiting them around, keeping them all the way in the back of the room. Because after 105 seconds, the boss is going to cast Decimate. And so everyone except the boss, but including the zombie chow, is going to go to 5% of their maximum HP. fun fact is if you have less than 5% of your HP, it'll actually heal you. When the decimate happens, healers need to top off the tanks so they stay alive. And then all DPS, every single DPS is going to focus on the zombie chow, because the zombie chow are immediately going to start walking slowly towards the boss. If any of them get to the boss, for each one that gets there, it's going to heal the boss for 5% of his maximum health. And so that's a bad thing. The boss also has an AoE fear. That's a 20-yard fear around him like Magmadar. Just should only be hitting melee. All ranged DPS and all healers should be able to outrange it, so it's not a problem. Basically, just control your zombie chow, be prepared for decimate, keep the trank shots going, and this is a really simple boss. Any questions?
Is this... I might have missed it, but is Mortal Wound also in Classic?
Yes. Again, that's the 10% stacking debuff on the current main tank that reduces healing by 10% per stack. And so that's the mechanic that forces you to tank swap if your DPS is slow. And like I say, he's not tauntable, so you have to have the designated OT building up threat and being second place, and then have your MT stop DPSing so the OT can build up more threat and take over.
Can we kill him?
Yep. After you kill the boss, there's some pats that go around the room here. If everyone's really cool and really smart, you can just cut through here without having to pull anything. And we just go straight ahead. And now we're at Thaddeus, the final boss of the Construct / Abomination Wing.
Is this positive, negative guy, or no?
Yes. Yes. Please hold questions till after the lecture, Evils. And so, for this fight, you're going to be splitting your groups into 2 groups. If I recall correctly, you're going to have your melee heavy group go on Stalag because he does an AoE mana drain, and you'll have your casters and basically everyone else go on to Fugan. And so Fugan's fun thing is he gets like an overcharge buff that increases his damage and attack speed. The fun thing for tanks is basically all of the attacks, when they land on you, are going to be crushing hits unless you block it with shield block. So when he gets overcharged like that, put your shield on so you're just not getting beat to death. It's important for tanks to get these guys in the right position. So for Stalag, keeping them away from the healers so they're not getting the AoE mana burn, and controlling the chain lightnings that are coming out from these guys. If you try to drag them off the platform, those little Tesla coils are going to explode and do AoE damage for about 8,000 every couple seconds. Basically a raid wiper. And then about every 20 seconds of the fight, the tanks are going to get punted by the bosses to the other side. So basically the boss that was being tanked on Stalag's side is going to come over to Fugan's side, and the tank that was on Fugan's side is going to be tanking on Stalag's side. And so you'll just see tanks flying back and forth like that. The goal of this fight is you need to kill both these bosses at the same time, kind of like the Tiger boss. And so if you kill one early and you don't get the other one down within a couple seconds, he comes back with full HP and you've probably wiped. And that's phase 1. And so we'll just go ahead and get these guys down at the same time.
So once we drop down, what side is positive and what side is negative?
I'll get to that in a second.
Far.
And so then after you kill him, go all the way to the far edge here, and you're going to have to jump and make it to the platform. If people fall, please mock them, laugh at them, and then have your MTs pick up the boss.
Somebody fell. Mock that person. It was Scramble.
Trump.
Gonna leap faith you.
And so here comes the polarity shift. And so generally you're going to have your negative charge be on this side here, and then you'll have your positive charge be on this side here. And so whenever there's another polarity shift happens, my previous guild, we'd always just move around the right side. So you're just always circling around. That way, if you're slow, you're not chaining too many charges. If everyone at the same charge is stacked together, you get a nice damage increase. And so that's the nice thing about the fight, is you get to really pad your parse. If there's a bad player standing with you that has the opposite charge, he's going to do AoE damage and probably wipe the raid. Outside of that, he does a chain lightning attack that hits everyone in range, so basically that'll be the AoE damage the healers will be healing in the fight. The goal of this fight is just being in your respective side for the positive and negative charges, stacking as close as possible, rotating when necessary, and just kill the boss as soon as possible. He doesn't melee that hard. Again, the majority of the damage comes from people that are not stacking with their proper charge and the chain lightning.
So, question. When we're doing, so where the X and the square are, so the X will be negative, the square will be positive?
Yeah, they'll be a little bit closer to the boss because you want your melee in there too.
But just like left and right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And like I say, if you're on the square side and, oh, my charge changed again, going around the right side of the boss, you just circle around to your new side. Oh no, my charge changed again, circle around on the right side again to get in a position. And you just rinse and repeat like that.
All this damage increase you're talking about is nice.
Yep, the more people that do it, the better your DPS is. So that's why people need to use those thinking meats.
Ooh, 30%?
So
Jesus.
the color that's around you, is that also in Classic, where if you're negative, you're red, you're positive, you're blue?
I don't think that was the case. I think this was a mechanic added in for Wrath. But again, the icon on the right-hand side will be a big positive or minus. And I'm pretty sure there's a weak ore out there, or there will be a weak ore that's going to say, hey, numbnuts, this is your charge. So you can't miss it.
God damn it, stop pulling me.
And then we can just kill the boss at this point. And then once he's dead, collect your helmet tokens, take the portal back to the main area. And then likely we'll be moving on to Plague Quarter. And so Plague Quarter has some of the most cancerous trash known to man. And so there's a gargoyle that pats back and forth in this room. Typically, it's going to be your first pull because it's really going to set the tone of how plaguing is going to go for you. With the gargoyle, it does an AoE stacking poison debuff that can't be cleansed. And the fun mechanic of the gargoyle is when it gets below 60% HP, it's going to make a little emote noise thingy sound. And he's going to stop attacking, but he's going to do a 6-second cast. If he gets that cast off, he goes back to full HP. And so it's really important when they do that stone form, you kill them as fast as possible. You focus fire them down. Otherwise, the longer they stay alive, the more that poison debuff stacks, and that's really going to hurt. After that, you got these lovely packs with the plague slimes and the ghouls. Ghouls are nothing special. They're like the ghouls in Undead Strat. They do a cleave attack. They do a bite on the tank that heals them for a chunk of their health. Nothing special there. For the plague slimes, though, they are super incredibly dangerous. They basically melee for like 50 billion damage, so you do not want to have a tank physically on those. Generally, you'll have like a warlock just spam Searing Pain on them and just kite them out the room into circles around here till everyone can focus on them. And again, you can drag trash out of the room here and kite it all around. You'll notice how slowly they move, so again, really easy to kite them around. And then we'll just continue working away on the right here.
Crusader Strike, how I've missed you.
And then we start the fun gauntlet leading up to Noth, and so you notice the gargoyle statues. And so you can deal 2 at one time. So again, this is where people need to focus fire one down. Make your way down the stairs, killing more gargoyles along the way. And then we'll welcome ourselves to the very first trash boss, and that is Noth. Some people have called this guy a raid boss, but I beg to differ. Basically, you'll have your raid get in the room here, and then have your main tank go in, pick up Noth. The biggest thing about this fight is dispels. The most dangerous part of this fight is Wrath of the Plaguebringer. It is a curse that is put on people. Basically, you're going to take shadow damage yourself, and then deal AoE nature damage to those around you. If that person does not move out of the raid, new people are going to get Wrath of the Plaguebringer, and it's going to get out of control and just murder everyone. So the spells need to be on point. Outside of that, Noth himself, he doesn't melee very hard, but he does put an AoE cripple on melee. Basically reduces your strength and attack speed and movement speed by 50%. And so really important to get those dispels off in your melee, especially your tanks, because periodically, about every 20 to 25 seconds in the fight, Noth is going to blink forward to his location and then do that cripple. And so when that happens, it is a threat wipe, and so you need to have a new tank pick up that boss. During the fight, through these little bone piles here, there's 4 different little bone piles. Ads are going to be spawning through there. You'll have your tanks pick those up, and again, just have your range help nuke down those skeletons. And then you'll just kind of rinse and repeat for phase 1. In phase 2, this little balcony in the back of the room, he's going to teleport up there. You can't attack him at all. But during that time, these bone piles are going to spawn additional mobs, and basically just get him under control and kill him. And the goal is to get all the trash mobs down before he teleports back down. If you get them down early, he teleports down he teleports back down quicker.
So is this the curse right here? Curse of the Plaguebringer?
Yep. And so you see you just ticking down, and you just want to get that curse off there. If you get the debuff on you of Wrath of the Plaguebringer, you just need to truck yourself outside the ring. And then there's the blink, and there's the cripple.
So the skeletons come out of the same spot every time?
Yep. Yep, like I say, you just have some OTs that are assigned to be near those bone piles and pick them up, and then have another OT that's always standing ahead of the boss ready to pick them up after a teleport.
I'm out of range.
Like I said, not a real hard fight as long as people get their D curses, the spells off, and if they get the debuff, move out of the raid immediately.
It's too far away.
At this point, we can kill him because, like I say, all he does is go up the balcony, and we sit there for a while before we kill ads.
I love Blade of Justice. Looks so cool.
After that, we get to move on to some more of the most cancerous trash on Earth. For the grubs up here, they just do an AoE poison. Melee just have to be really careful that they're just not taking too much damage from them. Bats like to leap around, and if I recall correctly, they just put a bleed on their current tank target. But the best way to go through this trash here is you just run straight ahead to the wall. And just ram your face in the wall here. Plague Beasts, get nothing special, a little poison AoE on them. They hit fairly hard, so just have a tank with a shield pick them up. And then once you get everything under control, you'll just move in a coordinated fashion around the corner here. And then just make sure you're hugging this wall. So that way you're only pulling trash on the right-hand side of the room. And then around the corner, staying on the right-hand side. And then you'll pause once you get to the doorway here. Make sure you don't go into the room. And so this is Heigan the Unclean, the safety dance god. And so this is a pretty fun fight, but also a good test of your network connection and latency. And so this fight is basically broken up into 2 phases. For phase 1, you're going to have your tank go in there, pick up the boss, and drag him into position 1. And then all your range casters and healers, they're going to go up on the platform where the boss is standing. And so the trick to this fight is keeping the boss about at this range here, so that way healers can still heal melee at the tanks and casters can still DPS. And then you'll just move the boss across the room here from position 1 to position 2. After the next eruption, over to position 3. And then after position 3, over to position 4. And then after this, you'll move back to position 3, back to position 2, and back to position 1. And then after you do a couple rotations, Heigan's going to teleport back to his platform. Everyone needs to get off that platform because he's going to do a big old AoE damage spell that's going to really hurt and slow you down. Most likely you'll die. When he teleports up there, everyone returns to position 1, and then we do the safety dance. just like phase 1 safety dance, just moves at a faster tempo. So again, going spot 1, spot 2, spot 3, over to spot 4, back to spot 3, back to spot 2, back to spot 1, and then rinse and repeat until he leaves his platform. And again, the MT will pick him up, drag him back in position, and just repeat the dance. Some of the more dangerous things is he has an AoE mana burn around him, so if you're a melee DPS for the mana bar, GG, you're going to have no mana. And then he also has an aura around him called Decrepit Fever. It's going to cut everyone's HP periodically down to half HP. You need to dispel that immediately, especially on the MT, and heal him back up. Otherwise, if you have that debuff and you get hit by the exploding form, you're probably going to die. Would definitely recommend considering a nature protection pot just to give you a little buffer in case you can't make the dance cycles. The other fun mechanic of this fight that wasn't present in retail is he's periodically going to teleport 3 people over into this room on the right-hand side. And so if you look in this little room on the right-hand side here, you notice there's all kinds of ghoulies in here that want to nibble on you. And so basically what you want to do is work together as a team to navigate your way through this area here to get back into the fight. And so try to avoid as much trash as possible, kill what you aggro, and make sure before you run the room here you see where the eruption cycles are, just so you don't come bellowing in when it's exploding on spot 4 here and you die. Any questions on that? And so let's see the dance.
You are next.
Don't kill him.
Have your tank be in position 1. And wait for this floor to explode. Explosion. We move to position 2. Then we move to position 3.
The whole time we're DPSing him, right?
Yep. Whole time you got to DPS and move your character around. So this is kind of a real test to see who is clicking and who had their spells bound. And then we go back to position 3. And so the MT gets the fun job of finagling the boss and getting the position so melee aren't getting themselves killed. So melee just be extra cognizant while the tank's moving around because he has a big old melee range and sometimes he can be a pain in the ass to move around. Move back over. It's one of those fights where it's better for you to do the smart thing than do the dumb thing if everyone else is doing the dumb thing.
God damn it, Turnbow.
And then teleports. We all move back to position 1 as quickly as possible. And then spot 2. And then on spot 3, and see, moves at a much faster tempo. Spot 4. Back to spot 3. Back to spot 2. Back to spot 1. Repeat.
Are we supposed to wait till it explodes to move?
Yep. You're probably not going to have enough time to stand still and cast a spell, but warlocks can still like do dots and things. Hunters can maybe do some shots, but it's more about surviving that phase. And like I see, people are getting teleported out. We'll just be running back in. At this point, we can just kill him. And that's Heigan. He doesn't have that much HP, I think like around 1.6, 1.7 million. And so again, as long as people can deal out some decent DPS in phase 1, he goes down really fast. So you might only have to do 1 safety dance. And then we'll just navigate our way through this lovely room here.
Isn't there something about the eyesight? Sorry, go ahead.
They just do a mind flay, kind of like Cthulhu. Interrupt, kill. This is kind of like a mini suppression room because you'll notice how fast things respawn. Just again, get together as a group, move through as fast as possible. If you die in the middle of the room, you're probably going to have to run back and get a summon. And then we run across the bridge here, and then it's Loatheb time. Yeah, the trash is super easy in there. Like I say, just you got to have people stay focused and not do the dumb. It just gets dangerous when you have that rogue that like pops sprint. Oh, guys, watch this, and then he gets hit by like 5 mind flays and 3 maggots hit him at the same time, and then he falls over dead. But nothing dangerous. Just move together, no problem. Here is Loatheb, where he's going to make your wallet cry. And so make sure you have like 10 trillion consumes with greater shadow protection pots, health pots, bandages, all that good stuff. Because the gimmick of this fight is healers can only cast 1 healing spell every minute. And generally most of those spells are going to be going on the main tank. And then you might have a couple of assigned healers doing AoE heals like Priest with prayer healing to top everyone off. But the most important part of this fight is people need to have their consumes, because with so little healing, you need to use bandages, you need to use health pots, whatever you can to keep yourself alive. The nice thing, this follows very tight timers, and so as long as you follow those timers with your consumes, you'll stay alive. The fun part of this fight is in these little corners here, there are going to be little spores that spawn, and they walk across the room. If they get all the way across the room, they despawn, and you don't want that to happen. But with those spores, when they die, the 5 people that are closest to them gain a buff, and that buff is 50% melee crit or 60% spell crit, and then your attacks deal 0 threat. And so you want to have your sweaty pumper boys get the first few spores that come out, but overall, managing your raid so everyone is getting those spores. Never have your tank get that spore, because it could be ugly depending on how the fight's going. If everyone else has it and the tank has enough of a threat lead, then it's fine if they get at that point for just parsing numbers. But yep, whole fight is getting the spore buffs on there, using your consumables when necessary, and staying alive. The retail fight here is just nowhere even close to how the original fight is, so I'm not even going to watch it, but we'll just see one of those spores spawn. And there's a spore over here. And so again, it's really important to have people call it out, get 5-year DPS over on top of it, and then kill it. Don't kill it early, otherwise no one gets the buff.
Can we just kill it?
Yep, at this point we can just kill it. During this fight, if you've not killed Loatheb after about 5 minutes and 15 seconds, his big impending doom ability, and that's the big dangerous thing, is going to be cast every 15 seconds, and it does like 2600 shadow damage. When it comes out that fast, you're dead. So again, stay alive, manage your mana, healers, organize your heals, use consumes, and you shouldn't have a problem. After play quarter, we go on to everyone's favorite quarter, and that's the military quarter, aka Death Knight quarter. Trash here is significantly different, so I'm not going to really waste my breath on the Wrath trash here. Basically, lots of Death Knights that do whirlwinds, cleaves, shoot shadow bolts, hit really hard. So melee, just be really careful when these guys whirlwind, because it'll hit like a truck. Skeletal Smiths will disarm your tanks, put sunder armors on them, so just be really careful how you pull them. And then just more trash. And then we go down the lovely stairway here. And then we get to deal with the Riders/Cavaliers. Thankfully, they're nowhere near as cancerous as they were in Wrath of the Lich King, but they're still very annoying and they hit really hard. And so just try to make sure you get them under control and avoid any paths that are moving around. And then if they've not made any changes, over here is where you're going to find your little Argent Dawn dude that's going to teach you the frost recipes here. And so definitely recommend, get over here, get your crafter guys talking to them, get those recipes. People that are not crafters, you can get a book from him that you can take over to the Argent Dawn camps. They can craft frost resist for you, but it's going to cost you a buttload of gold. So again, really try to get your guild crafters in there to save a lot of money. And then we have Vesuvius. And so this is a fight where those priests finally get their moment to shine and be the heroes of the fight. And so the fight's going to appear exactly like this with the 4 understudies and Vesuvius just padding around. And so this fight is all about priests mind controlling these guys because these understudies are going to be the actual tanks for the boss. For the understudies themselves, when they're not mind controlled, they don't really hit that hard, so they're not super dangerous. And so you just have an OT pick them up and just kind of drag them over out of the way. It's important not to do any DPS on them, not use Sunder armors, anything like that. And then you'll have your priest coordinating mind controls on them. And so when a priest mind controls an understudy, they're going to have a few abilities. The first one is Taunt. Just like the name implies, it's going to taunt the boss. They'll also have a Shield Wall ability that reduces damage taken by 75% for 20 seconds. And that is the key to the fight. Basically, you taunt the boss, taunt the boss, cast Shield Wall, or Shield Wall, then taunt the boss, depending on how your ping is and how fast you can get some key presses in there. But you only ever want to have an understudy tanking the boss as long as Shield Wall's up. And so when Shield Wall is about to expire, another priest is going to be mind controlling the next understudy, moving them into position, taunting the boss, and putting up Shield Wall. And then from there, just spam the attack ability. And so understudies will always be tanking the boss and just be rotating in and out. Healers are actually going to be healing the understudies to keep them alive because you want to keep as many alive as possible. Because the taunt has a 1-minute CD, and then the Shield Wall has a 30 to 40 second CD, if I recall correctly. And so it's just juggling those timers. Every time an understudy dies, it just becomes that much more challenging on your resources. Do you have a question, Trim?
Yep. Also.
Yeah. But hang on a second before we do that. Outside of that, you'll never have an actual tank on Vesuvius because he has an unbalancing strike ability that hits for a whole buttload of damage. And then if the tank somehow survives, it's going to reduce his defense by like 100, and then he'll immediately die afterwards. The most dangerous part about Vesuvius is he has a disrupting shout ability. It's a line of sight shout that has a 40-yard range, if I recall correctly. Deals damage and also has a mana burn component to it. And so typically with the fight, you're going to have Vesuvius kind of be over around the corner here, and then just kind of LOS when it's about time for the disrupting shout. And that way no one should take damage from it.
Show me what you've got.
And this is Wrath. Yep, 100% different. But outside of that, again, priests get the big responsibility of just rotating the understudies through, tanking the boss, and DPS just going crazy. And like I say, when it's time for disrupting shout, make sure you move around the corner out of line of sight. Then move back in and just rinse and repeat. Really easy fight. Outside of that, nothing else special that he does. And then we get to move on. And then we get the lovely cursed weapon room. And so generally what we would do is hug the left-hand side here to minimize how much trash we pull here. Unholy staves, they just do arcane explosions, so melee have to be really careful. Axes do whirlwinds, so melee have to be careful on that. And then the swords, if I recall correctly, do bleeds and cleaves. So just extra healing on tank.
So Lufa would come in handy here?
Potentially, yeah. long as you don't have people pulling the whole room or multiple packs, it's very controllable damage.
I don't have a target.
And then just a few more waves of trash here.
I'm out of range.
And then we get to move on to the endurance fight that is Gothik. And so Gothik is another one of those fun fights where you're going to have to split your raid into two teams, one on the living side, which is this main side here, and the other on the undead side, which is on the other side of the gate here. On the living side, you're going to have most of your casters, because mobs on the living side can take full damage from spells, and mobs on the undead side will basically be immune to most spells. And so this whole fight is about controlling waves that are going to spawn, so everything is set in stone for how it's going to appear and when it's going to appear. On the living side, on these three platforms here, you're going to have three different types of mobs spawn, and that's trainees, death knights, and riders. Trainees are nothing special. Little dudes that spawn, tanks pick up, they do a little charge, nothing crazy there. Death knights are bigger boys. They got more health, they hit harder, and they got two main abilities. They do a whirlwind, so again, melee DPS have to be really careful. And then they also... I think they do a life drain ability, if I recall correctly. And then you've got the riders that are spawned, basically dudes on horses. They have a AoE shadow damaging spell like Baron Rivendare or the dude in Scholomance. And so just be really careful of that. It does cause spell pushback. And then they have an ability called like Mark of Shadow. And so they have a chance to cast that on the tank. And basically, if you get hit by that, you become an eligible target for AoE Shadow Bolts. And so that's the other fun ability they have is their AoE Shadow Bolts, and so anyone that has that mark will get hit by it, and the Shadow Bolts hit for like 25 to 2800 shadow damage. And so you just want that Shadow Bolt only hitting your tanks. When the ads die, they fly up to the platform where Gothik is, and then they go over to the undead side. And so the key of this fight is controlling how fast you're killing ads on the living side, so that way the undead side can control how quick the ads are spawning in so they can get them under control. If living side is killing them really fast, undead side is probably going to get swamped really fast. And so for the bone piles is where they're going to spawn. The nice thing is there's a little animation of their little ghosts coming down to their bone piles so you can see where they're going to spawn. Trainees become spectral trainees, basically the little ghost boys that float around and do a big old AoE arcane explosion. Hits for like, I want to say like 700 arcane damage. 45-yard range, so they're definitely guys you want to get down really fast. The Death Knights become Spectral Death Knights. They still got their Whirlwind. They still got their Drain Life. They hit really hard. And then the Riders, they split into two mobs. They become the Horse and the Rider themselves. Horses, generally you're going to kill those guys last because they have a bunch of HP, but they're not really super dangerous outside of just hitting hard. The Riders are the dangerous ones. They still have their AoE damaging aura. They still do their AoE Shadow Bolt volley, and they also still put marks of shadows on people. So again, you want to get those guys under control and make sure marks aren't going out. The nice thing about the undead side here is they can be stunned by rogues. And so you want to have your rogues stunning them, maybe having warriors consider intercepting to stun some of the guys on their casts. On the living side, even though it seems surprising to call it the living side, they are undead, so you can actually shackle them. And so depending on how heals and DPS are going, you might shackle a couple mobs just to get a little breathing room in there. But the whole fight, again, is just coordinating, killing ads on the living side, and the undead side, coordinating how fast they're going to be killed, so that way you're working at a good pace. Like around the 5-minute mark, that's when ads will stop spawning, and then you'll have about 15 to 20 seconds to clean up ads before Gothik teleports down. He starts on the living side for about 20 seconds, then teleports over to the undead side. During the time when he teleports down, all he does is a Shadow Bolt on the main tank, and then puts a AoE debuff on everyone that reduces your stats by 10%, and it stacks over time. And so that's kind of the softened rage mechanic, is not having that debuff stack too much. When he gets below half health, I want to say. The gates open up here, so everyone rushes on the same side and just beats the crap out of them, and you collect your loot. Basically, as long as you can survive to the end and not have 10 million ads up, you're generally okay. Any questions before we start the endurance event here?
Foolishly you have sought your own demise. Brazenly you have disregarded powers beyond your understanding. You have fought hard to invade the realm of the Harvester. Now, there is only one way to walk.
And again, this was another fight significantly changed in retail, so mobs on the undead side do take magical damage. And so we're killing the ads there, and then you'll notice your little ghost going along the railings, and then coming back down.
The first kill goes to me. Anyone care to wager?
Oh, it's going to be so exciting. Maybe the first couple of weeks, it might be a bit more active on things since people are still being comfortable to fight, but after a month of this, yes, it's going to be just as riveting as this. Because, like I say, everything is locked in stone. There is no surprise of what ads are going to appear and when they're going to appear. The only real challenge of this fight is if someone pulls aggro, doesn't get out of a whirlwind, or does the dumb and get themselves killed, and just gimp that side that much more.
That's the dumb.
I need a target.
Normally, you'll put some more of your stronger DPS on the undead side, since that's where you need to do the most cleanup. But it's really going to depend on your guild and how your raid is really formed, if you have a lot of melee DPS versus a lot of caster DPS. But definitely having rogues with stuns is very, very desirable.
I need the target somewhere first.
Oh yeah, they start spawning faster.
It's also worth mentioning, typically you can't attack Gothik, but even if you can, he doesn't take any damage. Oh, and while we're dealing with this side event, going back to Loatheb for 1 second, he does have his own decurse ability, so he'll periodically throughout the fight remove all curses on him. So warlocks, you'll have to reapply elements, shadows, wreck, all that fun stuff.
I have waited long enough. Now you face the Harvester of Souls.
Who teleports into the fray and dies. So is there anything special about the actual fight when he teleports down?
No. Like I say, based on his HP, the gates can still be locked, and like I say, he'll be on one side for 20 seconds, Shadow Boy in the main tank, and then he'll teleport over to the undead side, repeat the same thing. And like I say, when he gets below half HP, the gates will open, everyone dogpiles on him, and the only thing to worry about is that debuff that stacks, like you see right now, that reduces all stats by 10%. Obviously, that gets to 10 stacks, well, you're dead.
Yeah.
Perhaps they will come to their senses and run away
Oh,
as
Torn
fast as they
Death Knight,
can.
it's huge.
I've heard about enough of your
And then more Death Knight trash, getting that everyone's favorite boss fight.
I forgot how much I hate that priest ability.
Which one?
The one where they fucking grab you. Yes, that one.
And so kill trash, and then make your way to this lovely little doorway here. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time going over all the mechanics and strategy of Four Horsemen because it would take a whole evening unto itself to go over that. So I'm gonna do the condensed nutshell version. Hopefully, no one's too upset about that.
Pretty pissed.
Based on previous conversations about this fight, I fully support it.
But this is Four Horsemen. This is where all your think meats are going to be put to their test. And so there's going to be a lot of coordination on everyone's parts. And so for this fight, you're going to have at least 4 tanks, maybe up to 8 tanks for this fight. And so the key of the fight is getting the pull down. And so you want to pull each horseman into the respective corner. And so on this left-hand side here, you're going to pull Thane all the way into the corner. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to pull Mograine all the way in the corner. On the back right is going to be Zeliek, and on the back left side will be Blamu. And so it's important they're all the way in the corner, so that way people in the middle have plenty of range to stay away from the Mark of the Horsemen. And so Mark of the Horsemen is the fun part of this fight. And so every horseman has their unique mark, and it's a stacking debuff that comes out. The first application hits for 300 shadow damage. The second one hits for 500 shadow damage. Next one's 1,500. Right to 3,000 to 5,000. Don't quote me those numbers. I'm just pulling a lot of them out of my ass. But again, you just see it's all about controlling the stacks on it. And so basically, you'll be designating your raiders into teams on each horseman. And so you'll be on your side. You'll get to around 2 to 3 stacks. And you'll start swapping over to a new corner. And so this whole fight is about controlling your stacks and moving on to the next corner and getting the boss down. Each boss has their own fun abilities while you're tanking them. And so for Thane, if you love that meteor ability in AQ40, guess what? He's got it. And so everyone on Thane's side are going to be stacked on top of the tank. So that way everyone can share the damage and no one gets one shot. Mograine is the most dangerous one of them all. And so he has a 25% chance on melee attack to do a fire debuff on the tank that hits for 4,500 damage over 6 or 8 seconds. However, he can be disarmed. And so you're going to have your warriors all rotate their disarms to minimize that kind of damage. He also hits like a truck. For Zeliek, he's like the snake boss in ZG. And so he does a chain laser beam for people that are within 15 yards of him. Basically, stay outside his range and then don't stay grouped up, because the chain laser beam will get stronger the more people it hits. And so if people are grouped up and get hit, well, it's a wipe. And then for Blamu, all she does is cast Shadow Bolts. She doesn't really melee, so it's theoretically possible to have a Warlock tank her. But other than that, she just puts down little void zones, just big black circles on the ground. Don't stand in them or you'll die. And so, yeah. Control your marks. When it's time to rotate, have the new team move in, have the old team move out, and just rotate through. As I mentioned, the marks are all independent. So say you've got 4 marks of Thanes, and then you move over to Mograines. The good news is you're going to restart the count for Mograines. The marks last for 75 seconds. So again, this is really important for controlling marks, making sure before you go back to your original horseman, you've dropped your stacks. But again, that's a whole conversation I'm not going to get into tonight. Any questions on the overall overview of this fight? One more thing to mention. At 50% HP, the 4 horsemen will cast a shield wall on themselves, reducing all damage taken by 75%, and then they'll cast it again when they get to 20%. It is theoretically possible that when they do their first shield wall, if you can burst them down below 19% HP, they will skip the second shield wall. But that's going to require some major DPS on that. For most guilds, typically you're going to kill Mograine first because he is the most dangerous, followed by Thane, and then moving on to Zeliek, and then Blamu last. But again, your results may vary based on how the fight goes.
So just to make sure, Mograine is the Baron, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mograine's going to be the big bald dude with the big sword that all the warriors and paladins are going to want.
And they replace him with this guy this time?
Yes. This was part of Wrath.
Alright, thanks.
This is not the lore video. That comes next year. And nice thing about the Wrath fight is these horsemen respectively go to their own corners on their own. However, in Classic, they're not. And so again, it's really important that you have your tanks move in or have your assigned people move in to pull them into the right position. Because you want to get them in those corners right away. Because if people are too close and the horsemen are out of position, you might start prematurely stacking Marks of the Horsemen, and that's really going to hurt your rotation.
The first kill goes to me.
The nice thing is they have a fairly small aggro radius, so you can have people kind of get along the side here, and that way when it's time to pull, rush in to get them under control. Outside of that, when they die, they just become a ghost that stands on top of their body. For the love of God, never go near that ghost, otherwise you will instantaneously die.
It is nice how they run to the corners.
They automatically go to the corners.
Yeah, again, that's retail only.
Oh, okay.
And then they die, you get your chest of goodies, and then we take the teleport back over. And so this is going to be another big change from Retail WoW to Classic WoW. In Retail WoW, they add this orb here that you click on to take you to the last part of Naxx. However, in original Naxx, basically you just stand in this little circle here, and it teleports you up to the Frost Quarter. So essentially, once you finish up the last wing, you're automatically going to go right into the Frost Wing. When you go to Frostwing, you will stay there forever. There is no way to teleport back down without dying or hearthing. Again, we won't have this in vanilla, so there will be no orb. You'll just stand on the platform and get teleported right up. And then welcome to Sapphiron, aka hope you got your frost gear, boys. And so we get the lovely little thing here watching Sapphiron reform his body. And so when Sapphiron reforms, he's going to stand right in the middle of the room. And pretty much where he's standing is where he's going to be tanked the whole time in the fight. And so you'll have your tank in front of the boss. You'll have your DPS on the side of him because he is a dragon. And you won't be in front taking the cleave. At the same time, you won't be in the back taking the tail swipe. And then over here on his left-hand side, everyone is going to stay spaced out, casting on the boss, keeping everyone alive. There is the Frost Aura dealing damage over time. And then there's a curse put on people that deals damage to you, but then heals the boss for a whole bunch. And then there'll be a roaming blizzard that goes around the room. It hits really hard and slows your move speed by 65%. And so just be really cognizant of how it's moving so you can move around it and not stay in its path. Sapphiron's main fight is 2 phases, one on the ground like we see right now, and then an air phase. When he goes into the air phase, he's not going to be casting anything else except for 3 frost bolts. It's imperative that you have your raid be on the same side but still spread out. People that get hit by the frostbolt turn to blocks of ice. However, if people are too close, they'll share the ice block. And you don't want that to happen. When the ice blocks go out, everyone's going to stack behind the ice block because the next part is the frost bomb that drops slowly in the room like this. If you're not line of sight, you're going to instantaneously die. People that are frozen in the ice blocks are still going to take damage from the frostbolt itself as well as the frost aura. So keep them alive. Make sure they got hots on them. Make sure they got shields on them. Because if that person dies, the ice block goes away, and, well, you're probably going to die shortly after. Yep. Yep. But again, if you have DBM installed and you have the voice bubbles, you'll have a few seconds of, herp to derp has been targeted, so you can make sure those healers throw some renews, hots, or power word shield on them to cushion the blow.
I thought they were going to fix that.
Fix what?
Shrem, you were saying that people aren't able to be healed. People who are entombed aren't able to be directly healed. I thought I remember reading something about how they were going to fix that. I'll see if I can dig it up.
It was changed in retail WoW because, again, in 10-man raiding, it can be really painful if you don't have any hots or anything like that. But overall, like I say, as long as people are relatively healthy, it's not that bad. It just becomes dangerous when, like, 20 people get ice blocked at once. That's unhealable damage.
Can we kill her?
Well, it's a he, but yeah. Outside of that, no special mechanics. Just dragon, don't be in front of it, don't be behind it. Lots of frost protection pots, lots of frost resistant gear, and just playing really smart. After that, we move on to the big boy, Kel'Thuzad here. And so, before we go in the room here, everyone just stay outside because there's a whole bunch to explain this fight because it's a long fight. And so Kel'Thuzad's fight is primarily 3 separate phases. And so for phase 1, everyone as a collective mass moves into the center of the room there and stops in the center of the room. At that point, you can't attack Kel'Thuzad, but the room is going to be surrounded by a bunch of angry mobs. It's imperative everyone stays in that center ring there because if you go outside it and pull that trash, you've probably wiped your raid. For this fight, it's really important to designate how people are going to attack the mobs that are going to come attacking you. And so the first mob that's going to come over towards you guys is going to be the Soldier of the Frozen Waste, Little Skeleton Boy. They don't have very much HP, but if they touch any person, they explode for a bunch of shadow damage and will launch you across the room, which you'll probably pull more trash, and again, you've wiped your raid. Typically, in the past, we've had, like, hunters work on those guys because, like I say, not a lot of HP, so some auto-attacking, they go down. Next is going to be the Abominations. You're going to have your tanks pick those guys up and face them away from the raid. They do a cleave attack, and they also do a stacking mortal wound debuff, kind of like Thankrus and Gluth. But all melee will focus on those guys. If I recall correctly, you can stun them with kidney shot and things like that, so great things to help out. But again, melee will focus on those guys. And the last one are big Banshee chicks called Soul Weavers. They move really slowly from the edge of the room to the center of the room. However, if they touch anybody or get to the center of the room, they have a cone scream ability that does a bunch of shadow damage and also launches across the room into more trash, and again, you've wiped the raid. And so for those guys, you'll have your ranged DPS focus on them so they don't get anywhere close to the raid. And you'll spend like 4 minutes and 45 seconds killing trash. It's all set in stone, so you're not going to kill everything in the room, because once you get around that time, it's going to start despawning. But again, just stay in the middle of the room until everything's under control. It's really an endurance fight, so make sure you're managing your mana, because you still have to deal with Kel'Thuzad at the end. So don't go too crazy. Kel'Thuzad will do a emote when he's about to engage and then start the fight. At that point, you're going to have your MT pick up Kel'Thuzad and take him exactly where he's standing right now. And so Kel'Thuzad has many, many fun abilities. The big mechanic of the fight is his Chains of Kel'Thuzad. It is a mind control on 5 people, including the MT, and it wipes all threat when you get mind controlled. Those people need to be CC'd, polyed right away, because like Scarum, you get big, you get angry, and you hit really hard and move really fast. And so if you have un-CC'd mind control people running around, they're going to start murdering people. As I mentioned, your MT is going to get mind controlled and lose all his threats, so you need to have OTs that are always building up threat to be able to take over on the fight. And so if you have a pretty regular Kel'Thuzad fight, likely you're going to have a pretty even rotation of mind control, so you shouldn't have anyone that's way up there on threat. I mean, if someone pulls threat, likely they're going to get MC'd anyways and lose all their threat. Outside of that, he has 2 main Frostbolt abilities. One is a single target Frostbolt with a 2-second cast that is interruptible. All people that have an interrupt have to interrupt that Frostbolt, because if it's not interrupted, it hits the main tank for about 10,000 damage. It is not partially resistible. You either take the full amount or you don't. Outside of that, he has an AoE Frostbolt ability, has like a 4-second cast time. You cannot interrupt that, so make sure you pay close attention to the cast time on the Frostbolt to know what to interrupt. But the AoE Frostbolt hits everyone in the raid for like around 2,000-ish frost damage. Can be partially resisted, but also puts a movement slow effect on you for about 4 seconds. Nothing too crazy there. Next, he has an ability called Mana Detonation, and so it's going to target players with mana bars. And so when you get it, you get a 5-second debuff that's going to tick down to 0. When that debuff hits 0, you're going to explode into an Arcane Explosion. Anyone that's hit with that Arcane Explosion is going to lose half their mana and take that in damage. So it's really important that if you get that debuff on you and people are nearby, either they move away or you get the heck away from them. The nice thing is, for you that gets hit with a debuff, you don't lose any mana and you don't take any damage. Next, he'll spawn little void zones on the floor, and so it's going to be this big circular black thing at your feet. You have a couple seconds to move out of it. Otherwise, if you don't move out of it, it's going to explode and basically one-shot you. So just keep a close eye on that. His last major fun ability is a Frost Blast, and so it's going to target the 3 random people in the raid. Kind of like Sapphiron, it's got a 7-yard range from the people it targets, so it's important people are spread out, because if it hits a person that's hits you and you're within 6 yards of someone else, it'll chain to that person, and then if someone's within 6 yards of that person, it'll chain to them, and you can see quickly how this gets out of hand. This one is super dangerous because you're going to take a total of 130% of your max health over like 5 seconds. So you have to get healed for about half your HP or you will die if you are not already at full health. Tanks will take the most damage because, again, it's based on your max health, whereas Clothies will take the least amount of damage, but again, still heal them up. This is not like the Sapphiron Ice Block, so you can still be targeted with direct spells and things like that, but just keep those people alive. Outside of that, just kind of rinse and repeat on that, and then when he gets below 30% HP, he goes into phase 3. Still has all the same abilities, but this time there's going to be 5 giant Nerubian spiders that are going to appear from the portals in the back of the room. You can shackle up to 3 of those, but don't shackle any more than that. Otherwise, if you shackle a 4th one, Kel'Thuzad dispels all the shackles, and it's going to get really ugly. For these spider guys, they have about 5.6 million HP, so you're never going to kill them. They've got basically as much HP as Kel'Thuzad. The whole mechanic to them is you shackle 3 of those, and then have 1 or 2 OTs pick up the remaining 2. They have an ability called Blood Tap, which happens every time a player dies or they change targets. When it happens, they gain a stacking 15% damage debuff. When they've only got a couple stacks, they really don't melee that hard, but if people are pulling aggro, if people are dying, those stacks pile up really fast and they start hitting like trucks. No one should ever be attacking those guys because, again, you're never going to kill them. You need to focus down Kel'Thuzad. When Kel'Thuzad dies, they all just leave, so nothing to worry about there. Pop all your CDs, kill the boss, GG. Any questions? Cool. We can all move in together. And then we just move a nice team all the way in the middle here.
Hate you.
And see, you notice how quickly those ads spawned in? If that happens in vanilla, we've all just died. And so you notice the soldiers of the frozen waste heading our way. Again, hunters will start working on those guys. No melee should ever touch them.
Far away. I need to get closer.
And then here comes the Abomination. Again, you'll have your tanks ready to pick those guys up. Melee will work on stunning them, killing them, all that fun stuff. What was that? Yep. Keeping a close eye on the Soul Weavers so you can get those gals down. They're fairly slow.
I need to target something first.
But the thing is with this fight, kind of like Gothik, it gets faster and faster and faster.
This is all phase 1, right?
Yep. This goes on for a while.
So we're going to have to bring hunters back into our raid after not using them very many in AK-40.
Well, we're still going to have like 2 to 3 hunters for Gluth.
Let's just bring one of your retail tunes. This looks easy. 1 million damage each.
Right.
Everyone's going to have to work on conserving their mana because, like I say, this is just phase 1. We've not even started on the boss yet. And so down rankings definitely recommended, coordinating so, you know, one person's not spending all their mana while someone else is sitting at full mana, wasting ticks of regen.
So warlocks can go nuts?
Yes.
Oh, welcome to the party, Bean.
Warlocks are surprisingly great for this fight because of just life tap and life drain.
Oh, Tubi, I did have a question about Loatheb. Does Drain Life work for warlocks, or does that count as a healing effect?
I believe it works.
It's too far away.
Definitely something you consider in a pinch.
I need a target.
But I mean, how are we gonna
I'm out of range.
consider life tapping when you've got 60% spell crit and those fat shadow bolts are calling your name?
I know, right?
But yeah, definitely for Loatheb, do what you can to stay alive. I mean, if people are using their consumes and everyone's doing their part, healing should be totally fine because the damage is so incredibly predictable. Then trash the spawns, and then THUZAD engages in a couple seconds. Again, get your MT over, ready to pick them up. And so for right now, just kind of watch the abilities that are going to come out. So you'll see the mind controls, maybe. Probably not going to happen because we're so high level. But there's the single target frostbolt. There's another single target frostbolt. There's the AoE frostbolt. There's the void zone that people are standing in. There's the arcane burst.
Burst, guys.
And then
I
there's
was
the ice block.
waiting. Oh, there goes the mind control. There's 2 of us mind controlled. Yeah, the reason the turtle's not saying is someone dotted me.
And then once the mind control's over, cleanse the people, obviously. We should probably kill the boss. Because again, the Frost Blast, it's 130% of your max HP. I don't give a damn if you're level 50 or level 60 or whatever the hell. You're gonna die.
He did.
And then normally we'd have the big Nerubian spiders come in, like say, get them shackled, get them under control.
I was wondering when my wings kept coming because people kept dying.
Powers beyond your imagination.
And that's it?
Yeah, and then congratulations, you've beat Naxxaramus.
That's all we gotta do?
This
Easy.
axe looks amazing. This thing is fucking awesome. Got like fire in it and shit. Dude got the sword.
Awesome.
Betrayer. Oh, the turning tide.
Enjoy all the delicious drama about who's getting their hungering cold, their phylactery, their Nerubian slave maker.
It's hunter loot, right?
The double healing mace combo that you can get from THUZAD. Diamond Flash set all the way.
I totally forgot how much that is the most annoying fucking thing in the game is that priest pool.
The nice thing about THUZAD is all of his loot is not pooled, so you always get 2 rings, and they can be 2 of the same, and then 2 of his other items, so you can get double healing mace, double shields, double anything like that, and then you get a phylactery, which you can turn in for the
Whoa! So you get
damage.
double King's Fall?
Yeah.
Oh.
You get 2 rings, 2 other items, and a phylactery.
It's a big chair.
We're gonna get a picture for RFI's first Nax clear. That's in Discord.
He's all, why do you have a demon hunter?
You did it, guys.
The trash here, it does seem a little bit stressful, actually. That's a lot.
Big if true.
Trash is definitely some of the more stressful parts of Nax. You'll have some trash packs that are going to be harder than the bosses. Typically, when you're dealing with those Plague Wing trash pulls and some of the Death Knight pack pulls. Like, so you have a lot of those guys that cleave and whirlwind, so if you're a melee boy and you rush in too fast, you're going to die. And then those slimy boys I mentioned that move really slowly, whoever's tanking those has to get them under control right away and make sure they start cutting them around.
Can I ask some newbie questions? Is that okay now that we're over?
Sure.
What are we goaling for our first, like, going in an axe? Like, how many wings?
I mean, I'd like to see us get like 3 wings down, so that way we can focus on military last and get some time into Frost Quarter.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Tubi, but Spider and Plague should be pretty simple, right?
Spider and Construct are
Spider and Construct, sorry.
Yep. Plague is a little bit more work just with the Heigan dance, and then Loatheb of who opened up their wallet and bought their consumes and did their part versus who is going to be shamed. So Loatheb could be a bit of a challenge if people aren't pulling their weight. Death Knight is so much execution, as you saw between Gothik and 4 Horsemen.
What do we need for server first? Do we have to do everything?
Yep. Because you can't do Frostwing until you've done all the other 4 wings. So there's no skips, anything like that.
So many bosses.
So, and it resets on Tuesday, and it comes out on a Thursday?
Correct.
So we're thinking Thursday, Friday, and Saturday if we needed it?
Yep. Like, Spider and Construct, as long as people, again, bring their think meats, should go really easily. Like I said, there'll be some trash pulls there. They'll be harder some of the bosses. So as long as we play it carefully, should not be a problem. Plague, again, people need to bring their consumes. I can't stress enough, bring those consumes. And then Death Knight, Make sure you look the guides over, then look them over again, and probably look them over a third time. And then Sapphiron, bring your frost resist gear, bring your frost protection potions, all that kind of stuff. And then for THUZAD, read the plan, know the plan, follow the plan, execute the plan.
Are there any optional bosses?
Nope, everything is mandatory.
Okay.
Just like the fun.
Outside of Mr. Bigglesworth.
Oh, I killed him as soon as we came
Anyone who kills Mr. Bigglesworth gets shame.
in. As soon as he walked in here, I killed his ass.
Shame.
Shame.
Shame. So there's frost resist gear out of Skolomance. If anybody's interested in farming that, I'll be hitting that up this weekend.
I'm always interested in that.
Yep, and there's also that frost resist breastplate you can get out of Stratholme. Definitely worth considering.
Frost resist wand too from Strat.
Yep.
The Radiant mail set isn't terrible. It's super cheap to make. So if you're a little strapped on cash, that's pretty easy to get.
I made the Frost Saber. I'm kind of disappointed how little frost resistance is on it.
Isn't that mostly like blue? Like, don't you have some better stats on there?
Now, for the recipes that we can learn, is it possible for people to just bring the mats with them to the raid and then make the frost gear on the spot when we learn recipes?
The only thing we probably couldn't do is the plate pieces because we need an anvil. But that could be a quick ship back to Light's Hope Chapel.
Is it I mean, are we going to get all the drops out of here for that, or is it stuff we can collect ahead of time?
I mean, there's a lot of mats you can get outside the raid. The biggest thing we have to get from here is the frozen runes. So as we kill trash, there's these little paper slips that drop called Word of Thawing, and you use those on the frozen runes. And when you use those on frozen runes, you get like 4 to 7 of those that you need for crafting. And so it's imperative that you plan out how you use these frozen runes because there's some really good pieces you can make and some pretty shitty pieces you can make.
And I assume you have like a pretty good idea of what that is already.
Yeah, like legs are some of the strongest pieces you can craft, whereas the cloak is some of the weakest, just because of Icy Cloak existing.
Do you know of a tier list for that thing, or for all that stuff, or do you have something that you can put together real quick, just so that way when we're in here we can maybe think about prioritizing it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 'cause I think like gloves and legs are some of the stronger pieces going for first.
There's something with that for a helm that I saw that had like a 44 frost resistance. I think it was a VOP drop though.
Yeah, there is the helm there. It's mediocre because if you do Ubers and you kill the dragon boss there, you know, you can get a pretty good frost resist helm from him. So, I mean, in terms of crafting, it's okay, but like I say, because you can do Ubers and potentially get that helm, not as amazing.
Well, I mean, there's, I think, I forget the name of the boss now. There's a drop out of here. I'm just comparing like what we're crafting versus what we're going to potentially pick up out of here is substantially better.
Yeah, that's why I say leggings are going to be the strongest pieces, followed by gloves, just because those are harsh to come by.
But is that also reliant on mats that are dropping in here? Because if so, that's not very realistic.
Well, like I say, we have to get the Word of Thawings from trash, so everyone has to loot their trash mobs. Likely see if we can get a script that makes it like the coffer keys, so we can get those brought up really easily.
Oh yeah, because this guild does a great job with looting trash.
Yeah. And then just making sure we're looting all the frozen runes we can. The nice thing is, you know, if we get a lot of Word of Thawings, you know, we could possibly look at doing some partial clears and then coming back in to get some frozen runes and resetting Naxx. There's rumor, allegedly, that if you use a Word of Thawing, it locks you in an Naxx and you can't reset it anymore, but nothing's been confirmed on that. I think it's just a lot of
It's still recharging.
talk just to scare people. Because that's basically what you had rogues and warlocks and mages do to make their money back in the days, is you could kite certain trash around and get easy access to runes and then reset and repeat. So I'd be really surprised if they made that change.
Isn't there going to be a quest in the pre-Naxx stuff for legs and a ring FR gear?
posted a Nax Frost Gear guide into RFI only, and it says that Icebane leggings and Ramaladene's Icy Grasp were both from Quest, and the rest are crafted for plate.
Yeah, the ring I can't recall off the top of my head just because I generally just use the one from the Scepter of the Shifting Sands quest.
But yeah, it's a ring and a legging, and it looks like it's for each class. That those two are Quest.
Yeah, the ring you need to use an Arcanite bar, I believe. And like a frozen rune.
Yeah. Not terrible mat costs, but for the frost resist you get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with the Frost Resist, you want to try to prioritize getting solid pieces, and that's why I'm not super stoked about the Radiant set, because it's very inefficient in its stat usage.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for day 1 or 2 or 3, however long it takes, to get in here and just have stuff, because it's Thorium and Hearts of Fire, which are really cheap and really easy to get. So if we're desperate to fill in a slot or something, it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on what kind of piece of gear you're replacing. Like the Radiant breastplate versus 2.5 chest piece for warriors, that'd be a hard sell.
Fair, yeah.
I mean, that much chunky stats for what, 17 frost resist?
Yeah, all in all, it's only 91 frost resist, so it's really bad.
Yeah, I was under the impression that pretty much most of the stuff that we're able to farm right now is total crap compared to what we're going to be able to craft as soon as this comes out.
Yeah, I mean, the crafted stuff is amazingly strong, which as it should be. But again, there's still a lot of solid pieces you can get out in the world, like the Icy Cloak, rings, bracers. Like I said, the plate helm out of Ubers. If you can get a frost resist set, really strong there. It just, you don't want to take weak frost resist pieces because you don't get a lot of frost resist, and you're losing a lot of stamina, and everyone's taking a lot of damage. So it's about finding that healthy balance. And that's why I linked that little chart about finding that balance so you maintain a good amount of DPS, but a good amount of survivability.
You can only put that in raid discussions.
Yeah. Well,
So like take the FR that comes on maybe some of your tier 1 or tier 2 pieces, and maybe some of the better blues that you can farm right now, but like not junky greens off the edge.
Right. Again, maybe rings, bracers, necks, not some bad pieces out there, since rings aren't always the strongest. And then, of course, there's going to be the new head enchants and leg enchants for frost resist too.
You can get those now.
Oh, really?
The frost enchants are out now?
The leg and head ones are. You can get them in ZG.
Oh, okay. I thought it was you have to go to an NPC in Light's Hope Chapel for that.
That's the shadow resist.
Wait, you buy them in ZG?
You gotta take the Arcanum, the whichever one they need, and you can get them in ZG.
It's the same guy you normally turn in your
the shoulder enchant guy.
No, the leg and head enchant guy.
Yeah, but the guy that you turn your idol into.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which Arkhams do you turn in there?
Look it up on Wowhead. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
That's what you're for. You're Wowhead Junior.
No, 2B's Wowhead Junior. I'm not.
2B's Wowhead Senior.
True. Old man, wow.
But yeah, definitely start planning out frost resist gear now. Outside of the frost resist gear, any other questions I can cover?
I don't think so.
Thank you for doing that. That was super informal.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I didn't go super in depth on things, but at least try to hit the high points on things.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate all the time you're putting into this.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else feel like he knew most of that from remembering it? In
Yeah.
Not at all.
I think he just brushed up on a little bit, but he remembered all this shit by heart.
Well, like remembering the mechanics is the easy part. It's just remembering all the values from so long ago. That's the tough part. That's why I'm kind of like, oh, it hits for like 2,000 is damage.
Doobie's just making up numbers.
Basically. But no, I mean, definitely first night. As long as people bring their A game and people stay focused, we should be able to knock out 3 wings without a problem. Like say, Death Knight / military quarter is going to be a bit of a slog in there just because things are so long and there's so much coordination that has to be done. And then Sapphiron, just all about that frost resist. Thankfully, the aura has been fixed, so it's not going to be as scary, but just a lot of execution stuff in there. And then just big old KT. People are sad that there wasn't a possible exploit for Kel'Thuzad like on some of the private servers, because on the private servers, Kel'Thuzad's mind control was flagged as a humanoid only spell, so you could actually put a bear tank on Kel'Thuzad. He would never get mind controlled, so you'd never have to do a tank swap. But that was just private server shenanigans.
So I'm not finding the frost enchant from the ZG people. Looks like it's just a nature.
I'm pretty sure you get it from the guy inside ZG.
Yeah, it's in the instance. It's where you turn in your idol for the head and leg enchants.
Really? Yeah, Wowhead doesn't show anything about it at all.
What? Oh.
Yeah, I thought the cold one was Light Soap Chapel too.
Fake news.
Mm.
I think
so. The ZG one they're out now. They were supposed to be out in phase 6.
Well, I mean, that's still good for the citizen stuff, though. Should probably get that.
Isn't there 3 different ones, though? Are they all nature? There was nature and then different ones. I don't know.
What is that spell? That's crazy. Trim. What was that little like bubble bath spell? Looks cool.
So it is called Ice Guard. It's actually from Eastern Plaguelands.
So did you paid $80 to get those damn wings?
So for the Ice Guard enchant, it'll grant you 10 frost resist to leg or head. It costs you 30 gold and 10 insignia of the Crusades.
And those insignias are 30 Cryptfiend parts, 30 core up elements, 30 dark iron scraps, or 30 bone fragments. No idea where you get any of those, though.
So the Cryptfiend parts, they drop off the Nerubian dudes in Plaguelands in the dungeons there. Savage Fronds come from Lashers and Dire Maul and Ungoro. Bone fragments from Bony Boys and Plaguelands. The Dark Iron parts from BRD.
So we could... Is this in phase 6 or is it something we can farm now?
Phase 6.
Ah, okay, never mind.
Alright, I gotta hit the sack, guys. I will see you probably on raid day.
Sounds good.
Thanks again, Tubi.
Yeah, happy to help. I mean, definitely if we do some strat runs, Scholomance runs, and BRD runs, you get a crap ton of bone fragments, Cryptfiend parts, and Dark Iron things.
It'd be even more fun with all of our overpowered gear.
Exactly. The Savage Prawns are more the pain in the ass. You used to get a crap ton of them from Dire Maul East because they could drop off the small Lashers, but then they nerfed that because no fun allowed. So they were just giant pains in the ass. And then there's always the Craftsman's Writs if you want to just throw money away.
What now?
So there's other quests you can do called Craftsman's Writs. And so they're kind of like the Cenarian Circle quests where you get a random quest and it's like, hey, bring me like 20 mana pots, or hey, get me a couple sappers and some dynamite. The nice
Hey,
thing
bring
is,
me a petrification flask.
basically, the nice thing about these quests though is you can actually sell them on the auction house, because there are some decent quests out there that are actually worth doing. And so that's a nice way to get some money, is you get some of those good craft and wits quests and sell them on the age. And then of course people should be doing these anyways because you get an 18 slot bag.
I'm in. All right, well, I'm going to go. Thanks again, TV. This is really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thanks, Tubi.
Hi, guys.